I just learned that we think better if we use our bodies. So why don't you, I want you to think when I'm talking, so why don't you stand up and warm up a bit, because now I'd like us to think together. So warm your body up and maybe, you know, pause a bit. Great, woohoo! Yay! Do you think better? Much better, good. Now you can sit down. When I went to design school, I, before that, studied some journalism. I actually did some HTML coding, and I found my way to Hyper Island. It was a great design school, and this was in the late 90s. I met the designers, the people who have the passion of experimentation, of doing things, beautiful things, exploring things. They were doing such amazing things, or we did together. Even if I, started to do a little bit more of project management, we did some really interesting things. Of course, we learned methodologies and how to be systematic, but most of all, we used our heart and our talent to design things. And after Hyper Island, I very soon became the managing director of a design agency called Doberman. I've been running it for 12 years. I still love it. And we now are trying to explore this concept of service design. And I'm going to elaborate, and I actually would like us to have a discussion about it. What's so good about it? And maybe are there some things or risks of using it? So Doberman is doing everything from visual design to health service design and multi-platform for on-demand services. And we fell in love with this notion of service design. And I thought, why don't I share some of the stuff that I've learned the last couple of years? Let's start with what's good. So Doberman, like I think many of you, started up as a web agency. And when we first started, we tried to send out stuff to a very, I think, confused audience. And we then very soon realized, why don't we first understand what they need, and we design services that they want? It's obvious. But then when digital became core to our clients' businesses, something interesting happened. We couldn't just design great digital services. We actually needed to understand the full customer journey of all the touch points where a customer is meeting this organization, to be able to design and develop services that is doing the exact right thing in each and every touch point. I think you all agree, yeah? And this is not as easy as it looks like, because this all sits in the context of an organization, of something where this great customer experience actually needs to be implemented. And we need to understand what is the existing organization or brand or technology or pricing model or HR or leadership. We all need to design services that could actually meet this organization's existing platform or ecosystem. And I found all these great service design tools that we've been talking about this morning is great for that. I love them. They're a very, very nice way for us to understand what the users need, how we co-create, how we build those customer journeys, and all that. It's been very, very good when designing our services. So for example, so this is what I think is so good about all the tools, the attitude, the thinking. So when we work with a huge bank and insurance company in Sweden, and they come to us and they say, can you help us with our web services? We, of course, go out there and we meet the customers. And we understand their needs, and we map them. And we then take all these insights and create them into some sort of concepts with a digital core, of course, but it's more of the full customer journey. And we're developing these services together with the bank. And actually, this bank is very clever because they said, why don't you teach us all these tools so that we can then continue to work out the services, like someone was saying before. It's a continuous journey. Or if we work with the Scandinavian's largest training center, of course we need to use all this knowledge that we have to be able to give them a great customer journey for their customers. But, and here's what I would like to discuss with you. When we fall in love with something, it's kind of that we seem to just do a little bit, maybe too much of it. So, where is all that I learned in school? Where is all that passion and experimentation and trying and just, use your skill sets and talent? Where did that go? You can look at it as if design was on a design scale, and I hope that you all agree that we love it both to be analytical and systematic, but we also love, the creative part of it. And I think what happened to us, and what I would like to discuss with you, is maybe we became so proud of putting on our suits and talk with businessmen about design. Maybe we forgot and felt, we don't want to talk about that creative stuff and the appearance anymore. We might look like clowns, and we're now these important design consultancies. Maybe this happened. And maybe what happens in our projects is actually we're focusing too less on the execution. Maybe even the budgets that we get are more into the insight and strategy and less into the execution. A large design consultancy in Sweden worked for a very big organization on how they should transform their business meeting the digital world. This is what they came up with. They did tons of analysis. They worked for 9 months. And I can promise you, there is very little of what I learned at design school in here. And that worries me a lot, because I think that the design in service design is what's going to make those services so much better. So this client came to us and they kind of gave us this and said, can you make something? Can we start to see what this is? We all agree that this is great. But what will it be? So I'm not saying that I do not like service design. I just want us to talk a little bit about it. Because actually, I think that it tends kind of to forget the heart. Why we need to take all these great design skills that we have, combine it with the tools. So I'm not saying that we should forget the tools, but what if we would bring in some more of our heart in the projects again? And we've all mentioned startups. Robert, he was a designer at Doberman, and he went to work for this great, huge design innovation consultancy. I think you know which one it is. And he learned all the methods in the world. He came there from there fully equipped, going into the startup called Artsy. It's a New York-based firm exploring art. I'm not going to talk about it. And he says that he thought that he should bring in all this methodology to make this startup so much stronger. But what he found out, and he's now head of design there, is actually that exploring things and starting to design from all the interactions that he has with the customers and his design team is so much more efficient for this particular startup in the phase where they are, rather than, begin with the insight, mapping out all the customer journeys and all that. Find that a bit fascinating. Another example is when, at one Christmas, we were asked by a newspaper if we could redesign something. And I said, well, we don't work over Christmas, and let's not do it. But 3 of our visual designers said, actually, we'd love to do it. And I said, you can take whatever. They took a bank. So over Christmas, they redesigned a bank with all their gut feeling in the world. They designed the dream bank for them. And this was published in a newspaper 5 years ago. I know for a fact that all big Swedish banks in Sweden have this picture on the wall as a vision of what a bank could be. There was no user research or co-creation or anything in this process. I love that. Actually, I love the craft in it. I think that if we combine our research skills with our craftsmanship, it's excellent. So, for example, we started to work with PwC a couple of years ago, and in one project we're asked to redefine how they offer their pretty complicated financial services. That's kind of a challenge for a design consultancy to go into this world. And of course, we did tons of workshops and a lot of customer research to understand why is this offering so complicated, and what is the offering about, and how can we make it easier. But what really made us get the best insight was when we prototyped it. And we did this very, very quickly in the beginning. So we said, what if we would package your offering like boxes, like this? And we went out to all the small, medium enterprises that was in our target group and asked them. And actually, that is what made a really good and fast and efficient way for us to produce a concept that they are now rolling out and will be launching in a month's time. So it went very, very much faster. Another example coming from the startup world is, I'm not allowed to say what it is, but it's, you could see it's something with photos, where this company also said, can you think out something, a business model for this? And we said, what if we would just build a prototype? And what if you will take that prototype and go to your investors and see if you find the money? And they were kind of scared, so of course we did a scenario and all, built up with all the customer journeys and everything that we needed to have. But actually, the investors loved the user experience of it. They loved the identity. And that's what's going to have them give money to this project. So let's never forget to craft it. And this, for those who know me, is my favorite topic. Because if we're going to have all the talents in our organizations to do such great things, we need to facilitate that. We need to invest in the culture of our design organizations to make sure that we become as innovative as we possibly can. So I think, and I'm a strong believer in co-design of everything, especially the key decisions, not what type of coffee you should have. So this is the way that we do budgeting at my company. We build it in Lego. And that's been a perfect way for me to have my company understand the strategy of next year, but also the balance of economy, not just wishing for things, but actually, okay, if what they then, after this session, they build the budget in Lego, where each 4, you know the 4s, when you use them, is worth 200,000 kronas. And they have to put them there or remove them and give me a perfect balanced budget rather than a wishing list. I also think, and this has been very challenging for me as a manager, is to say yes to the initiatives that comes in from your organization. Because a lot of the innovation is already there, and if they are going to dare to do innovative things with others, I think you need to start to say yes more often, even when your gut feeling says no. So for example, the plus menu is the way that we give people salaries within my company. The reason why is because someone said to me, we actually have a very boring system of salaries. And I kind of said, can you have something that is not boring? Yeah. You can have vacation, and you can have pension or education. You can premiere your coworkers in so many different ways. So he and I came up with the plus menu, which is kind of, you have your Big Mac and Company, or what's it called? Big Mac menu, and then you could extend either the fries or the Coke, you know that? It's the same system. So you have your salary, you could either make that one bigger, or vacation more, or more pension, or education. I said, yes, great idea. Let's prototype it. Or the notion, of people leaving your company because they want to do something else. I said, yes. Why don't you go away and travel, or work for a competitor, or something else, and come back if you want to? So we call that Doberman Exchange, and it's been very successful. People come back. You don't have to lose them. And last, I think that we also need to use all different kinds of methodologies when we run our companies. And one way of training our guts to be more courageous, for us to dare to do more innovative things, let's play. So we play internally, but we also force our clients to play. Here's the bride, and here's a photographer up here, and they walked in their shoes of the target groups so that they kind of embodied the services that they are going to deliver. So I think service design is great, but let's balance the analytical scale with the creative, because I think that is the true legacy of design. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you. Before I ask for a question, I want to say I'm thrilled to hear that a representative of an agency model suggests that their best and brightest go and found startups or join them. That is fantastic. I haven't heard that before, and I hope they come back. I'm not sure. I believe they come back. But I see this happen often, especially in the United States. But it's great that you bring it up. So, what's the question? Please. Otherwise, I will ask questions.
I was just interested in this last thing you talked about, which was, what exactly was it called? Something about the salary menu.
Yes.
Your thing about how people could decide how they would be compensated for their work at your agency. I didn't quite, maybe you could elaborate on that a little bit.
Oh, you want me to explain it further?
Yeah, I would think it was interesting.
Okay. Well, it's very simple. If you give someone a salary, okay, let me put it this way. each year when you have your salary discussion, instead of me saying this year you get 500 euros, you don't get that, 50 euros. I'm saying this year you get 2 pluses. What do you want to invest them in? Do you want to have a higher salary or more education? Or you're just exchanging the pluses for whatever you think is valuable for you. It costs me the same. It's just, you know, and I was talking about it just as an example of a culture where we celebrate ideas that comes from inside. Do you get the concept? Can you try that in your companies, to have a plus menu?
I would say that everyone that sits here could try that in their company. Yet on the other hand, if some of the designers that have never been entrepreneurs leave your organization, come back, I'm not necessarily believe that that would function as well anymore, because then they would be more aware of like different levels of economic units, of the whole idea of transaction.
But don't you think that's also about how you run your company? If you run your company in a way that we're co-creating the agency as well, you know, in the same manner as in a startup, I think that why people come back to us is because they feel, okay, it was very much the same.
Yes, yes. But that would, I don't want to have a discussion about this, but this would mean all the like these kind of like the soft incentives that you give an example. If you would give an example, you say like, oh, everyone in our company gets a share of like the financial like success of the company, it would be something else. And if somebody can choose...
Okay, but we are co-owning our company too.
Oh, you're all owners?
Well, we're 25 owners out of 50, and everyone was offered to be an owner.
Okay,
because if you're
that would be important to say.
Yeah.
If it's a partner model, then fine. Okay. But otherwise it sounds like, oh my God, no, there's another agency that like tries to lure the poor designers that don't know anything about business into like doing, like tapping into a passion and their love to basically to ride them to the point where the horse has to go to the horse sausage factory, as we all know. So this, because this gets my cajoles kind of cooking. Cool. Another question?
You have one question over there.
Yes. Let me throw this. No.
I have a very loud voice.
Oh, perfect. I love loud voices.
Yep.
You spoke at the end about the importance of balancing what some might call left brain and right brain considerations. How do you propose to find the point of balance?
We prototype it, I think. I think we need to, there is no magical algorithm of that balance. I think that if we are aware that we tend to do either or, if we continue to have that discussion here in this room or in our organizations, I think that is the best way to reflect and to learn and reflect and learn. No magical measurements, I think. Do you agree? Or how would you do it? Do you need another energizer?
Thank you. Thank you. Great.